You're good.
Good evening and welcome to the school committee's April 2nd, 2020 school committee meeting. It is 7:05. I'm calling this meeting to order. All members are present, including our student reps. I need to read a statement for the meeting law purposes. Pursuant to the governor's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Paragraph 20, as well as the Select Board's emergency order dated March 16th, 2020, the Holliston School Committee will be using remote participation for this meeting. The audio of this meeting is being recorded and will be posted to the HCAT webpage within 24 hours in accordance with the governor's emergency action requirement of keeping the public informed of actions during this meeting. I ask that all participants remotely attending this meeting please state your name for identification purposes each time you speak at the meeting. At this time, I'll do a roll call attendance. Mr. Morton?
Yes, present.
Ms. Shaughnessy? Here. Mrs. Listevnik?
Yes, I'm here.
Ms. Koshin?
Present.
Ms. Hanstead?
Present.
Ms. Naborski?
Present.
Mrs. Raffi? Present. At this time, I will take a motion to approve remote participation by the school committee tonight, this evening, April 2nd, 2020.
Moved by Dawn. Seconded by Cynthia.
Moved by John Naborski, seconded by Cynthia Listevnik. Roll call vote. And Mr. Morton?
Yes.
Ms. Shaughnessy?
Yes.
Mrs. Listevnik?
Yes.
Ms. Koshin?
Yes.
Mrs. Hanstead?
Yes.
Ms. Naborski?
Yes.
Ms. Raffi, yes. All right, thank you. It is 7:07. We are now opening our public meeting for, our public hearing for budget FY21. Due to the circumstances and how we are doing this remotely, Mr. Boudet is going to be managing who comes on the screen with me so that I can see people. We're going to let people present themselves, raise their hand. They can either ask their question or make their comment. After the person speaks, I'll look to the screen if any committee member needed to add any comments. So with that being said, the public hearing is now open. Keith, is there anybody here?
I see no one requesting to speak.
Give it a couple of seconds.
I'm sorry?
I'll give it a couple of seconds to see if anyone joins in.
Hey, can I just say a quick thing?
Yeah.
I find this so delightful to see the people who are actually watching our meeting. I think it's wonderful. We never know who if anyone's watching. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, it's 7:09. I think we gave people some time. I'm going to close the public hearing now. Our first item for this evening is to review our meeting minutes. Our first set of minutes is the March 19th executive session minutes. Are there any questions or changes that need to be made? So I I will entertain a motion to approve and retain the executive session minutes from March 19th.
Moved by Cynthia.
Seconded by Andy.
Moved by Cynthia, seconded by Andy. Roll call vote. Mr. Morton,
Yes.
Ms. Shaughnessy,
Yes.
Mrs. Listevnik,
Yes.
Ms. Koshin,
Yes.
Ms. Hanson,
Yes.
Ms. Zaborski,
Yes.
Ms. Zarafi, yes. March 19th, regular session minutes. Any questions or comments? Joan?
My question is a procedural one before I do have some comments on the minutes, but now that the public hearing is over, Keith, may we individually mute?
No, it's either going to be, because there's other people here, if I turn off you being able to mute yourself, or if I allow you to unmute yourself, that's going to be for everybody who's here.
Well, why? It
That's
shouldn't
the way
be.
the software works.
But that's, okay.
No, because
I was in an earlier meeting and they were able to select people that could speak and others that can't.
Right, that's what, I can do that. You'd have to raise your hand and I'd have to turn you all on and off as we go. If you want to do it that way, that's fine.
I think
No.
we should do it that way because, I mean, if someone starts speaking out of turn, we
Okay.
can just deal with that, right?
can
Okay. I'll
wait.
mute it.
wait, can I ask a question? Am I accurate? There's only five non-school committee members, 5 or 6 on here.
Yes.
Can we simply ask them to self-mute and explain that they cannot engage in the discussion?
We can, we can go that way. I mean, that's your guys' call on how you want to run your meeting.
I would love to
I don't-
track that. There's only 6.
Okay, give me 1 second.
And our students, yeah.
Give me 1 second.
May I proceed with my,
Nope. Okay, unmute yourself, Joan.
okay, the March 19th minutes on page 2. If you go to the FY21 budget overview, the first paragraph, it's a little disjointed. And I think it says in the second sentence, the third sentence, it said, in addition, the committee recommended an increase of 4.73%. And then the sentence after that says that again. So it's unclear what the delta between the 272 run rate and the 473 is. So I just wrote a sentence that would clarify that. That says the committee recommended an additional investment of $701,624 to fund restorations and strategic initiatives for FY21. Taken together, the total increase over FY20 is 4.73%. And then continue this separate from the or it should say this is separate from the capital request. That paragraph just didn't make sense, and it didn't flow well.
Joan, I'm so sorry. Which minutes are you looking at in reading this?
The 19th, page 2. Those are the ones we're talking about right now, Stacy, right? The 19th?
The 19th
So
page.
you're requesting that the third sentence be deleted and the sentence you read out loud be substituted in its place?
Correct. And then the sentence after the reference to the capital request is also stricken.
Can you read this one more time? The sentence you're proposing and where it
Of course. So the second sentence, she noted that the run rate for FY21 is projected to be blah, 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 which is blah, 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 higher than the appropriation of blah, blah, blah. My suggestion is to strike the next sentence and to insert the following sentence. The committee recommended an additional investment of $701,624 to fund restorations and strategic initiatives for FY21, period. Taken together, comma, the total increase over FY20 is 4.73%. Then let it flow to this, insert the word is, separate from the capital request, blah, 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 expenses, period, and then remove the sentence, the total increase over FY20.
I don't have a problem with that. It's accurate, so I don't have a problem with that change. I'm trying to see where it's fitting, but I'm fine with it.
Okay, because it wasn't clear in the initial draft, so I just thought we should make it clear. And I have this on Word, Brad, so I can send this to you. And then I had a question on page 4 of those same minutes. The very top of the page, the first new sentence, the DESE has concluded that there is no way through distance learning to provide a free and appropriate public education to all students. Was that their point of view on the 19th?
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
Well, that's a question for Brad. Was that the DESE's point of view at this point? I don't remember it being quite that strong. Do I have to mute for Brad to unmute?
No, I'm sorry, I muted myself. That is what I recall saying. I don't recall the strength with which I stated it.
Okay.
Wait. I don't actually recall you saying it exactly that way, Brad. I recall you, like, you're saying that you actually said the words, DESE has concluded there is no way through distance learning. I don't think you said that last week.
These aren't last week's minutes. These are the week before's minutes.
Okay, respectfully, whatever. That's fine.
No, well, but the point is different because the guidance had changed between the meeting, the minutes you're reviewing now and last week's minutes.
Okay. Alrighty.
So my question was there their stance at that point, just to make a record of the progression of their thinking. That's all. Thank you.
So is there a motion to approve March 19th regular session meeting minutes as amended by Ms. Shaughnessy?
So moved, Anne Louise.
Second.
Moved by Anne Louise, seconded by Joan. Roll call vote. Mr. Morton?
Yes.
Ms. Shaughnessy?
Yes.
Mrs. Listevnik?
Sorry. Yeah, sorry.
Ms. Koshin?
Yes.
Ms. Hanstead?
Yes.
Ms. Naborski?
Yes.
Mrs. Raffi, yes. March 26th, executive session minutes. Any questions or comments? Is there a motion to approve and retain the March 26th executive session minutes?
So moved, Anne Louise.
Seconded by Lisa.
Moved by Anne Louise, seconded by Lisa. Roll call vote. Mr. Morton?
Yes.
Ms. Shaughnessy?
Yes.
Mrs. Listevnik?
Yes.
Ms. Koshin?
Yes.
Ms. Hanstead?
Yes.
Ms. Naborski?
Yes.
Mrs. Raffi, yes. March 26th, regular session meeting minutes. Any comments or questions? Joan?
On the March 26 minutes in the COVID-19 school closure issues and challenges on page 1, about 2/3 down that paragraph, this association is abbreviated AFT Massachusetts. That's not accurate. We need to insert MTA as an abbreviation for them, and then insert the American Federation of Teachers Massachusetts, which is the AFT Massachusetts. And then the very end of that sentence, we've defined all these other terms, but then we just wrote Massachusetts PTA, and I think we should write Parent Teacher Association.
Any other questions?
I do. On page 2, it was irksome to me that all those numbers started with that we. We don't need that. Just scratch that we for all of them. But that's stylistic and it doesn't matter. On page 5, the top paragraph, giving the budget subcommittee to revise the budget. This doesn't, and bring a new number forward to the review April 2nd. I do recall distinctly saying that the budget subcommittee should take a look at what a 1% looks like for their sake of discussion, and I would like a record of that. And it also said at one point that I left the meeting. I'm not sure, we leave the meeting all the time. I'm not sure we have ever made a note of that, but it doesn't matter. That's all.
If I could just clarify that last point, the reason that was stated is because there was a vote while you were not present, so that we needed to. I think that was. Is that the one that you?
I don't think so. I don't even think I printed it out because I thought it was so irrelevant. It didn't. It seemed like kind of random. It seemed random. It doesn't matter. Leave it in. I don't care.
Okay, so are there any other questions or comments? Is there a motion to approve March 26th regular session meeting minutes as amended by Ms. Shaughnessy?
Moved by Dawn.
Seconded
by Joan.
Moved by Dawn, seconded by Joan. Roll call vote. Mr. Morton,
Yes.
Ms. Shaughnessy,
Yes.
Mrs. Listevnik,
Yes.
Ms. Koshin,
yes.
Ms. Hampstead,
Sorry, yes.
Ms. Naborski,
Yes.
Mrs. Raffi, yes. Great, thank you. We do not have public comments on our agenda, but I did, our student reps are here tonight, so I just wanted to give them 2 minutes just to say hi and catch us up on how they're doing. And they are here. So Mary and Anya, welcome. It's great to see your smiling faces. And feel free to let us know how you're doing.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Yeah, I think we're doing good, just adjusting to the new routine.
I think with like all the changing information, it's a little bit challenging to try and like make plans and keep up. But I think just like the more communication between like the teachers and administration to us, I think is good.
Good. Do either of you want to share anything about future plans after graduation? Anything to announce yet, or are we waiting until the next meeting?
I'm still making my decision, but
I'm probably going to be going to Middlebury.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Anya. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Mary?
I'm still making my decision, so next meeting.
Good. Excellent. All right. Will you two stay healthy, continue to stay connected with friends and school, and it's great to see your smiling faces. So thanks for showing up tonight.
Thank you.
Stace?
Yeah.
I'm just curious. I mean, I certainly have a perspective through my own student, as I'm sure lots of you do, but I'm just curious, do the kids like have you been getting on to some of your classes, even though I know it's been enrichment up until this point? And is it good connecting with everyone? Do you find other kids getting on? Like, how has it been? Maybe start with one and then the other. I don't know, Mary, and then Anya.
Yeah. I think it's been going pretty good. It's different, like for all my different teachers. So one of my classes right now, I'm taking it online, and I've already finished my course before we like ended school, or we had our last day of like in-person learning. So that work is kind of just like, I was an AP class, so it's kind of just like review for the exam that I'm doing independently. And then one of my classes, we've been meeting like 2 or 3 times a week, and we've been doing a lot of review for AP Bio as well. And then my Spanish class, we've reviewed a little, we've met less often, but we've still met a few times to kind of like keep up with the language and just like to see people and do stuff like that. But I know we're going to start to get more consistent with that. And then for my last class, I'm taking physics. So we haven't met at all, but we've been assigned like online work or individual work to do just like on our own. So I think it just for everyone, it varies between like their classes and their teachers. And so I think next week when it gets more consistent across the board, it'll be a little bit better.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Anya?
Yeah, same for me. I think it depends on the class. And I think right now, like a lot of teachers are focusing on like checking in with us and seeing what would work best for us as they figured out their plans. But I've met with all my teachers and we've started to do some work. I know like my French teacher, which your daughter is, she's in that class. She's had 2 cooking classes that she's hosted virtually where we've made like French recipes, and that's really great. And we speak French the whole time. So I think,
was it as horrifying as Mary said when I popped in and said bonjour?
I struggled with the recipe we did today, but it's been pretty fun. It's been pretty fun. And I think like every teacher is just trying to, figure out how to keep us working in the best way while still like recognizing that we're all going through like a crazy time, both us and the teachers, obviously.
Thank you for sharing that. That was helpful for me. I don't know if anyone else thought so. So thanks, girls.
All right, we're going to move on to old business. We're going to discuss the FY21 school budget. So Annalise?
Yeah, so this is actually pretty short, but I did send you guys, because we're in a Zoom environment, I thought it would be helpful to send along a document because I think it'll be easier for the public to see this if they're watching. So I'm going to hit share, Keith. I think I can't watch you guys. Oh, I can't share. It says I'm host disabled attendee screen sharing. Can you enable that and obviously nobody else share their screen? Perfect. Okay, desktop share. I won't be able to see you guys while I'm doing this, so instead of raising your hands, if you have questions or need to interrupt, someone's going to have to unmute and just say something. Okay, so let me pull this up. So the subcommittee met yesterday with the Finance Committee liaisons. We also met last Friday. And after last Friday, we agreed to reconvene today because on Monday evening, we were anticipating that the select board would postpone the vote to postpone the town meeting by 30 days, which they did. The new date, just so everyone is aware, I believe it was June 15th. Brad, correct me if I'm wrong on that. And forgive me one sec.
I'm not aware of the date.
That's correct. If I'm talking to a chair.
You are. You're talking to a chair. I really apologize. My heat just got crazy. That I was so glad they did that. So thank you to our select board. I think that gives the town at large more time to kind of assess what's going on with the economic impact of this shutdown, downturn, whatever we want to call it. It also allows the schools more time to evaluate how best to address their budget. And then the Finance Committee met Tuesday evening, and there wasn't anything significant of note there, but on Tuesday morning, Chair Ken Shada had a conversation with Pooja Mehta, right, up at the State House. She's Senator Spilka's kind of right-hand arm, and she had some very helpful information that he shared with the subcommittee in meeting yesterday. Before I go further, I just want to say I am so grateful. We have had some incredibly collaborative, supportive, open, and efficient discussions with our Finance Committee liaisons, and I think it just goes to show you what regular communication and meeting can do. It's just helped the whole working process improve significantly. And Dr. Jackson also shared with us news that he was getting in real time from the State House. So I'm just sharing all of that because it informed where we thought the budget should go, and we made a few decisions. So this first page, I'm just going to highlight what's here. It's a bit of an eye chart, but the first point just says what I just said, that the recommendations were informed from the Governor Baker, Senator Spilka, DESE, the Holliston Finance Committee, Select Board, some local emergency management officials, and importantly, all of our district-wide administrators who are regularly providing input to Brad, of course. The one key point, and it doesn't affect the FY21 budget directly, but there could be some downstream things going on here. But this state aid is guaranteed for March of this year. And that's important because when this shutdown happened, we really didn't know if there would be any immediate impact to state aid. And if there had been, it could cause some very immediate consequences for the schools. So I think we're all there was a little sigh of relief, collective sigh of relief on the March budget. Our understanding is that the governor is going to try to keep communities whole through the end of this fiscal year. There's no guarantees on that. I think this is going to be a month-by-month kind of thing. So we'll wait and see if the April budget comes through, intact the way March did. And then, of course, May through June. But at least for now, we know that March is intact. So that's helpful. Our assumption is the schools will stay closed through May 4th, obviously, but it's TBD after that. And until we know more about what the rest of the school year will look like, we can't make any immediate budget decisions with respect to that. Why is all of that relevant to the FY21 budget? Because each day that passes in this current environment can impact our current budget, and that may change our year-end balances, if you will. If we end with a surplus, there's some hope, although, I don't know how optimistic we would be that the governor would be able to pass a bill allowing districts to potentially roll those funds over into the following year. That would be extraordinary. That never happens. So I don't think we're expecting it, but it's possible. More importantly, if we had any kind of, sort of favorable balance as we move through the next couple of months, we could potentially use it to support some urgent needs that are arising out of this. So, right now we're dealing with potential savings that might be associated with utilities that aren't being used at the schools, bus fuel that we actually pay for, even though we lease the bus company. So the bus fuel isn't being used. And there's a couple of other sort of line items like that that could yield some incremental savings over the next month. At the same time, there's some potential other costs that we are continuing to spend budget on. So most of our budgets, just so everybody knows who's watching, is contractual and cared for in the budget. So we're not worried about that. And what I mean by that is staff salaries, those fixed costs are the money is set aside for it, and we can't make any changes to that. I don't think we would if we could, but that's where we are with that. So the remaining balances are small and nominal, but if we had a few $1,000s here or there, we might be able to do something with it as we move into remote learning to make sure that every student is getting all the support that they need. The fixed costs for FY21, we had projected in all the presentations up until now that they would increase by 2.72%. And what that really means is that our level services, run the program exactly the way we have it now, no changes. The cost associated with that would go up by 2.72%. At this point in time, we are not making a change in that assumption. We don't have enough information to make a change to that assumption. So that is kind of a key baseline that we're working with. Until if and when we get more information from the state, the Commonwealth on state aid, we won't be able to make any real decisions about how that could impact our budget for next year. So for the moment, we haven't made any projections, but I think we are anticipating that there will be some sort of a reduction in state aid. Until we know what it is, there's no point in making changes. So that's kind of the context for what led into our recommendations. So here they are, super simple. We are recommending, and this was unanimous, and honestly, it didn't take the subcommittee long to come to this. It was a sort of well-supported unanimous decision. We're recommending that we reduce the budget request down by a little over $600,000 down to the run rate plus fixed cost increases. So that number I mentioned, which is 2.7%, 72% above last year. Sorry, I can't see my whole screen and some of my notes are there. And then we're recommending eliminating all other incremental requests for FY21. So all of the additional position/program enhancements that we had recommended on March and voted on as a committee on March 5th, the subcommittee is recommending that we eliminate all of those with the exception of 2 items. The first is the Mood Check Depression Prevention Program, which costs $60,000. And the second is the permanent substitute at the high school, which would cost $22,500. And I just want to explain why these 2 items are the 2 that we are collectively recommending remain on the list for the moment. Mood Check, we feel, is such a critical and essential program to the health and well-being of our students. And in our discussions, and especially after last week's school committee meeting, we felt it potentially could be more important now than ever before. So we do not feel comfortable making a recommendation at this point in time to eliminate the Mood Check program. Having said that, I think we all feel that there's got to be a way to get this cost on this thing down. So we're hopeful that through discussion with this Wellesley Center for Women that we might be able to do that. And I don't know what that number would look like. It depends on, a number of different things, how it's administered, et cetera, et cetera. But if possible, we'd like to see that cost come down. But for the moment, we've got it in at the cost that we are indeed charged. I don't know what other resources might become available to pay for that. And certainly if there was some other grant or some such thing, we would use the money for that. And then we could, evaluate what sum gets returned to the town. The permanent sub at the high school, this was pure economics. The fact of the matter is that the cost of a permanent sub is less than the same cost for external substitutes that are brought in for the day when you add up the hours that a permanent sub would be filling. So our feeling was that this actually would save the district money, and that this is the one item that's sort of a net positive when you add it into the budget. So it just made good economic sense. And I do want to say that, again, we discussed these items with the finance liaisons at the table, and they were very supportive of both of these. And they also understood why we were recommending a reduction in the budget. They appreciated that, and they did not pressure us to go further at this point in time. In fact, they felt that we needed to get more information from the State House before any more decisions could be made. That carried through to capital. We had an excellent discussion around capital. Our capital request from March 5th, as all of you know, is significant. It's about $1 million, and it covers a number of campus facility improvements, maintenance, and repair items, and then a number of technology items, and I'll come back to that. But the recommendation collectively across all 6 of us was that it was premature. And here's the key reason. Some of the items on our capital request, and I'm going to scoot down to that. Hold on. Gosh, why is that animating like that? So annoying. Under the building and field maintenance repairs, there were 2 items, the Miller roof repairs and the committee and field turf. Committee and field turf in particular was a question mark. So a couple of questions were raised in subcommittee. I want to answer and address them here, or share them here so that the public knows. I think in our last presentation we had said, we're sort of past the official end of life on the committee and field turf. But we are actively investing in maintaining that turf. In fact, we're aggressively maintaining it with a sort of multiple times a year so that we can reduce any demise further and certainly maintain the safety of the field. And that's the most important thing. That's what I wanted to mention. That doesn't mean we can do this forever, which is why it is on the list and on the list for this year. But given the current economic situation, it's possible that one item could be deferred. However, one of the things that got brought up in our subcommittee meeting is that the ideal time to pursue many construction and significant maintenance projects like this is during an economic downturn when materials costs go down. Mr. Boudet pointed out that, we have to pay prevailing wage, and that the expectation is that we really wouldn't be able to realize significant savings on labor costs, but potentially on materials or other parts of this project. So the finance committee encouraged us to, or the sub-finance liaisons encouraged us to try to look into that a little further, see if there's an opportunity, and if it made sense, then, that potentially could stay on the list. I suppose the same thing would apply to the Miller roof repairs, so we didn't take any of that off at this point in time. The technology requests, couple of things here. This request we did not reduce either, and I think we feel pretty strongly about the need for the Chromebooks for grades 6 and 9, because if we don't make this upgrade now for these grades, then it kind of starts to steamroll on us next year or the year after, and we'll be facing a much bigger cost. So we thought it was more prudent to move forward with that if possible. And the network infrastructure to support all of this, plus some of the enhanced teacher participation on the network, that was critical as well, and that's a much smaller cost. However, having said that, the device upgrades for instructional and administrative staff, I think one of the things that I can't remember if it came up at our school committee meeting last week, but it did come up in subcommittee meeting, I believe, last Friday. And it was this, that the way this was proposed was for, it was sort of all buildings, all teachers, if I'm correct about that. And we're wondering if we can take a second look at phasing that in maybe 2 or 3 tranches of device upgrades, either by, the entire elementary complex, then the middle school, high school, maybe not in that order, I'm just making that up. But you know what I'm saying, like break this down so that we can potentially reduce the cost, but also downstream flatten out the replacement curve, if you will, to use a bad analogy. So that's the one thing we'd like to take a look at more closely before committing to whether or not that number stays the way it is. So right now, there's no change in the subcommittees or no change in the capital request from the subcommittee. If we go back to what the budget looks like with the changes that we proposed, as I said, it's a little over $600,000 that we cut out of the request. That's pretty significant. So last year's FY20 appropriation was $34.9 million. With the level service budget not changing anything, just running things as is, we are expecting the cost to go up by 2.72%. So that's roughly $949,000. And that is the bulk of what we're asking for, that natural increase, if you will. The actual increase associated with mood check and the permanent sub at the high school is only 0.24% over last year's budget, 0.2%. So it's $82,500, not insignificant in, an economic downturn, but we were as conservative as we could be at this point in time, I think. So that's what the committee voted, the subcommittee. It brings the recommended appropriation to $979,683, which represents just over $1 million increase, 1032420, and a total increase of 2.95%. So there you have it. In the packet, before we go to questions, just to point out what else is in this little packet, because it's a mini packet, you have, annoying, you have the spreadsheet, which you can ponder over, but I thought this was going to be too small for anyone to see on screen or the public, but it's in there. And then for comparison, the budget that we voted on March 5th as a committee. So let me just take this back to the page that matters. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, I can see. Okay, Cynthia, go for it.
So when I was looking at the capital request for the devices, remember you were talking about the phase-in for the administrative staff and instructional. We just bought a bunch of, a small amount, but we bought a few Chromebooks that we gave to teachers. Was that part of this piece, or is that completely separate? Because maybe I'm confusing apples and oranges here, but I know we did have to give some teachers devices just so they could do any remote learning at all, and I'm wondering whether some of those were reflected in that amount or not.
Well, we bought them for teachers and paras. I actually think most of them were for paras. You can answer this, Brad, but it was sort of a short-term plan to deal with the current situation. I think what happens is they go into inventory for the big picture, and then we just have to sort out how we're going to handle those next year. But do you want to give a more precise answer, Brad?
No, that's accurate, Anne Louise. They do. The devices for instructional and administrative staff are not going to be Chromebooks. So the Chromebooks that we did purchase would actually, if we were able to use those, we could use those and introduce those and reduce the number of Chromebooks we'd have to buy for kindergarten. Well, not for kindergarten; those are different, but grades 6 and 9. But some of that. That's not, it's not the whole $21,750 also included about 100 licenses for donated equipment that wouldn't be a one-to-one kind of savings.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You remember the 100 or so?
Yeah, I do, thanks.
We got it. It's to enable those. So thank you, Brad. Anybody else? I can't see everybody's hands. Peter, you look like perfectly still. Yeah, that's
Peter hasn't gotten much sleep this week.
I know. I can tell. Everyone looks a little tired. My daughter told me today, because I've been so crazy busy and haven't slept, and I was like in my workout clothes again. And I said, "Oh my God, I didn't get to do my hair." And she goes, "Mom, that's the whole point of Zoom. That you don't have to look perfect."
Anne Louise, are we gonna revote the budget tonight and then set a date for a second public hearing, or?
So these are for tonight. I just didn't know if anyone else had any additional questions. So there's a couple of things. Yes, I would like to ask the committee to vote to approve this revised budget. But I do want to say, and I want to reiterate this loud and clear so anyone who's watching, this is, at this very moment, our best recommendation with the information that we have in hand. And yet I want you to know we're cognizant that, you know, the nation, the Commonwealth, and the town of Holliston may be facing very different economic circumstances a month, 2 months, or a few weeks from now. And so our ask is that you give us time to remain on top of this, to stay on top of this and make informed decisions. We didn't feel it was sending the right message to the community to hold on to a budget of like 4.78%, knowing full well that just wasn't going to happen. We wanted to reiterate the importance of protecting current services. And so we haven't made any adjustments to that. We felt the two items that above that were essential. And, you know, we want to do our best to see if we can't fund these, but circumstances may change. We are going to be meeting on a weekly basis. We've already posted the next 5 budget subcommittee meetings. They're going to be Wednesday mornings so that we can get information from the select board and the and the finance committee after their weekly meetings on Monday and Tuesday evenings. We've extended an invitation to Tina Hine, who is the select board liaison for the school committee, to join these meetings. We've posted them with executive session in the event we need to kind of make quick decisions that potentially could pertain to any collective bargaining issues, although there is no set agenda for any of that right now until we know more about what's going to happen. Our goal is to stay on top of information and be able to move quickly and not get caught up because we forgot to post. And it's on everybody's calendars. So I think this could change over the coming weeks, but I think it would be in the committee's best interest to consider voting this budget in tonight. And then, you know, we'll just see how things progress on a week-by-week basis.
Can you drop your screen for me so I can see, because I can't see the other members for me, please?
Oh, so what do I need to do? Not share?
Yeah.
Unshare it, yeah.
Yeah, you can also, if you go to the top right corner, you can toggle between the screens. If you look at that little or sort of like a square within a square, upper right-hand corner.
You know what? Why don't I just unshare? Because pause share. Oh, pause share. Does that help?
No.
Okay. Stop share.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yay.
All right. So were there any other questions? Thank you, Anne Louise, for that detailed presentation. I appreciate it.
And to Andy and Lisa, because they've been instrumental in helping with this. Obviously.
Thank you, Andy and Lisa. All right, so no other questions? All right, so I just confirm, Anne Louise, give me a thumbs up. We want a motion to approve the FY21 recommended budget subcommittee recommendation of $35,979,683.
So moved by Anne Louise.
Seconded by Lisa.
Can I do that? I can do that, yeah.
Yeah, moved by Anne Louise, seconded by Lisa. Roll call vote, Ms. Hanstead?
Yes.
Ms. Koshin?
Yes.
Mrs. Listevnik?
Yes.
Mr. Morton?
Yes.
Ms. Shaughnessy?
Yes.
Ms. Naborski?
Yes.
Mrs. Raffi, yes. Okay, we don't need to do capital because nothing has changed, right?
Or it's part of well, we didn't mention it. So yeah, we don't need to either way.
Okay. Okay, excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. And the reason why I'm calling your names differently is because now you're all showed up on the screen differently. Okay, new business. Dr. Jackson.
Actually, we're going to stay with old business
Oh,
and talk
sorry.
just very briefly about the school start times update. I wanted to just reiterate the concern that I'd expressed at your last regular meeting regarding the impact study that we had planned to perform, and the fact that all of the due to the shutdown and the associated social emotional challenges that people are feeling about it, plus the fact that students are not in school right now, we are unable to follow the plan that I had presented to the committee probably 6 or 8 weeks ago, regarding gathering pre-change data. I will have to be pretty transparent with everybody and say that I have not given this a lot of thought as to what the alternatives could be. I've been focusing on other matters, but my initial review of the issue really hasn't changed much, and that we are at a point where unless something dramatically changes, I am having a hard time seeing anything, given our current situation, any way we can collect valid pre-adjustment, school start time adjustment data at this point in time. And, if the committee, as always, if the committee has feedback or thoughts, I'd welcome them. I'd welcome that input.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Thank you. This is just such a bad position to be in. There's no good answer. I'm wondering but I just want to kind of talk about this anyway, because I feel like we need to be on record with the public discussing this. I'm not as concerned about surveying the high school kids, because we're always going to have our data from the Metro West Risk Behavior Survey that we can compare from year to year to year. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, I think we're going to see anxiety rates rise on that. And I don't think that's necessarily going to be something we would contribute to anything related to school start times. My concern, though, is the Miller kids, because that's really where we've heard from a lot of parents who are worried about the earlier start time causing anxiety, stress, and other issues. So I'm thinking out loud, I'm wondering if there's any value in trying to survey parents or kids at Miller and or Placentino now, knowing that even though we're going to get weird results, because obviously we're all stressed out and this is a time of high anxiety, the same will still be true a year from now, I suspect. I don't think this pandemic is going to be over a year from now. So I don't know the answer, and I'm not sure this even makes sense, but I want to throw that out there and see if we think there's any value in trying to do some kind of survey of Placentino parents and Miller kids and or parents, so that we have something a year from now to compare to.
Joan.
I appreciate where you're coming from and what you're trying to accomplish, and I don't think the data would be valid. I just don't.
Go ahead, Finn. And then
I
Dawn.
have to agree with Joan that I just don't know if we can get any valid data from an actual survey that we do now, but that doesn't mean that we don't have some data that we've already been taking just as part of our routine. So tardiness data, absences, behavioral issues, reports to the office, visits to guidance, things like that. Like we do have, as a matter of course, like we have data that we can draw from. We're just going to have to use that as our comparison instead of a survey, which is unfortunate, but everything about this is all shifted how we've had to look at everything. And I feel like we're just going to have to do the best we can. That's just my 2 cents.
All right, so Dawn and then Anne Louise.
I was going to say something similar to Cynthia, that we must have absenteeism and tardyism and behavioral things we can look to. But beyond that, just because it's not a compared impact study, I think we should still be open to feedback from families who will have this change happen at the Miller level next year. And we could still ask questions, but maybe in a different format. And we would have some time to put that together, especially if we were thinking that we would be asking them in November, December of next year.
Anne Louise?
Yes, that, what you said and what Cynthia said, I completely agree. And I have to say, I do think, Lisa, the survey data wouldn't provide you're really not going to have a baseline, and so therefore you wouldn't have an accurate point of comparison, and that's the real issue. I am struck by the irony of the situation we are in right now, and the and almost the comment, well, we're not worried about the high school students. I know you didn't mean it that way, but the irony of this is that the whole thing was put in place to try to address some of the stressors, anxiety that are associated with sleep loss for our middle and high school students. They are, I'm just going to throw this out there anecdotally, getting more sleep right now than they've gotten in their entire education. And it's been interesting for me to watch my own high school student self-direct her schedule around better sleep. It's been very interesting to see. She made a remark that she had to get up for a 10 a.m. class. And I'm like, a month ago, that would have been a gift. That would have been 2 periods in. And she's like, yeah, Ma, I know. But, it was interesting because she's getting more sleep. And I appreciate the workload's a little bit less, but not entirely, because she's applying for all these scholarships, like a lot of the seniors. So she's got work and other things. But it's been very interesting to see them self-direct their own schedules right now. So it almost made me wonder if there was a new baseline right now just among our kids who are home. Can't survey that either and compare it to anything, but I thought it was sort of interesting. So observation for the day. Anyway, that's it.
Well, some of them might be actually getting maybe more sleep, but I feel like they really need it because they're very anxious about what's happening.
I think I hate to draw generalizations. I think frustrated, certainly, because they're not seeing their friends, not doing anything. I think some kids that produces enormous anxiety, and others it manifests itself differently, But I agree. It's a completely different environment,
I guess it depends on whether you know someone or if you're sick yourself as well, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I know the one person in town who's sick.
I heard of 3 yesterday.
Yeah, so there's a few more coming. There we go.
Lisa?
Okay, I just wanted to say thank you for, indulging me on that. I don't think there's a good solution, but I'm glad that we at least had a chance to chat about it. So thank you.
And just, as Brad said a couple of minutes ago, if anyone has any suggestions, if you're like me and waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning and you think of a brilliant idea, send them a message. We might think of something, but.
Send me a message in the morning.
Well, yeah,
3 o'clock.
No, don't leave your phone on, Brad, and then you won't know it came to you. And all right, Any other questions about that? All righty. All right, let's move on to updating on the school closure. Brad, are you going to share your screen? Oh, okay. Brad, you're muted.
Oh, there we go. I was trying to unmute and it was giving me trouble. So I want to be, there's a lot of information I want to provide here tonight. So I did write out some of what I wanted to say. So if you'll indulge me for a minute. There's two pieces I want to talk about tonight. The first is the rollout of phase 2 of the remote learning plan. And then once that conversation has been completed and questions answered, I did want to also begin a conversation regarding the week in our school calendar that is currently designated as April school vacation, and begin and at least broach an idea to the committee for your consideration. But we will leave that till the end. On the topic of our remote learning plan, I wanted to start by summarizing the history. It seems like it was a year ago, but it was only 3 weeks ago tonight, on March 12th, that I canceled school for Holliston for Friday, March 13th, and for the week of March 16th through the 20th, due to my growing concern about the public health issues related to coronavirus. On Sunday, March 15th, Governor Baker canceled school across Massachusetts through early April. Monday, March 23rd, we began week 1 of our 2-week enhanced learning program. This program was designed to meet several objectives: to assess the digital readiness of our staff and families for future remote learning, and our students, to reaccess and reestablish connections between our students and their teachers, to assess our students' social emotional wellness, and to offer students high-quality learning activities that were aligned with the then current DESE advisories that districts focus on preventing academic regression by reviewing previously taught material and reinforcing skills already taught this school year and applying and deepening those skills. On Wednesday, March 25th, which is just 8 days ago, Governor Baker announced a further statewide cancellation of school, this time through Friday, May 1st. On Thursday, March 26th, which was the day the school committee last met a week ago, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, who we affectionately call DESE, issued their first set of written guidelines regarding remote learning. These guidelines encourage districts to continue to set the social emotional wellness of their students as their highest priorities, but allow districts to locally determine the appropriateness of teaching new content moving forward. The reality of our students facing an additional 4 weeks at a minimum of remote learning has triggered intense and emotional discussions on both sides of the issue, as evidenced by the discussion that took place here last week. These discussions have been repeated in emails and messages sent to me, I'm sure sent to members of the school committee, and to other members of my senior administrative team, with no clear consensus emerging. A week ago tonight, as I listened to the discussion among the school committee, I felt somewhat cornered, and that making the decision about whether or not to allow for new content moving forward would require me to betray one of my 2 core values, those being to focus on our students' social and emotional wellness, and the second being to support individual students' academic needs to the greatest extent possible. Over the next day or two, as the increasingly angry emails from high school parents, a few high school parents, demanding new content trickled in, I began to recognize the level of anxiety and fear that high school parents and students were feeling about the impact that this school closure was going to have on their future, and I was recognizing that those emotions were running off the charts. And I learned through conversations with my colleagues that those reactions were far beyond the level of fear and anxiety that my peers were reporting in their districts. Somewhere around Sunday or early Monday morning, well, it was probably Sunday, something that Ms. Dvorsky mentioned at the last meeting clicked in my head. In this particular instance, I've come to realize that Holliston High School's unique and innovative semester-based schedule might just be the source of a lot of this angst. It is true that this now 7-week closure is the equivalent of a 14-week closure in most high schools in Massachusetts with a more traditional year-long class schedule. This is a unique problem unique to Holliston that I've come to the conclusion must be addressed. So phase 2 of our remote learning plan will allow teachers to add new content to their remote learning instruction beginning Monday, April 6th. At Placentino and Miller, where skill development in reading, writing, and mathematics have always been the core work our teachers do, this focus will continue. At the middle school, teachers will continue to explore curriculum content through the school-wide lens of personal, local, global, and the heavy emphasis on deeper applied learning and deep conceptual understanding. Those will continue to drive their work. New content, however, will be introduced judiciously by teachers while reinforcing important concepts and skills. The changes at Holliston High School will be much more pronounced. Holliston High School will be moving forward in curriculum content beginning Monday, April 6th. Teachers have been asked to be alert to the differentiated needs of their class and offer all necessary accommodations. Holliston High School will work on a fixed class schedule beginning at 9 a.m. and ending not later than 11:50 a.m. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, where each period will meet twice per week for a class period not to exceed 50 minutes. On the days when the student is not meeting with their teacher, they will be assigned independent work that should require, again, no more than 50 minutes per day to complete. With this schedule, each student will meet with their period A, for example, teacher, for up to 100 minutes per week and have up to 150 minutes of independent work per week assigned to them. Students are expected to complete the work assigned to them. The next point is that teachers will provide students with feedback on their work. This is actually true K to 12, but I wanted to highlight it within the specifics of the high school. I also want to share with you that the term schedules have been modified, and I see some of you are taking notes. I shared with you the written 26-page plan that we've developed and will be, which is one of the reasons why Peter is on probably his 5th coffee right now. So we do expect to distribute that plan to the community tomorrow. So you don't need to take notes. That's in the information. All of this is in the information I shared with you about an hour before the meeting began. Term schedules have been modified as follows. Term 3 will conclude on Friday, April 17th. And term 4 will begin the next remote learning day after April 17th. End of course grades will be determined as follows. Classes ending at the conclusion of term 3, which are 2 sets of classes. One are classes that run terms 1, 2, and 3, and the others are classes that run just for term 3. For those classes, letter grades based on the student's average as of March 12th, 2020, the last day of face-to-face instruction, will be given. Students will have until the end of the school year to complete makeup work assigned before March 12th. At the teacher's discretion, students may be allowed to redo assignments to improve their previous earned grade. Classes ending at the conclusion of term 4, which include all term 4 classes and all semester 2 classes, which go over terms 3 and 4. Students will receive credit or no credit at the end of the school year. All courses earning credit or no credit will not be counted in our students' GPA. There will be no traditional final assessment or exams given for term 3, given for term 4, or given for semester 2 courses. Final grades will be calculated as if these assessments were exempt. Seniors will be responsible for work through May 29th, 2020, whether it is remote learning or we return back to school. For all other students, the final day for term 4 is currently scheduled for June 24th, and students are responsible for all work assigned during the closure period. Before I open us up to questions, I wanted to add 2 final remarks. First, I want to end this presentation where I started it, talking about social emotional wellness of our students. This new plan will come at a price. Not all of our students will be able to take advantage of the remote learning opportunities we are providing. Given the changes we are making to our high school remote learning plan in particular, this will inevitably result in larger gaps between students than our original plan would have seen. We will need to devote the necessary staff and financial resources when we return to addressing these gaps. That will mean whether it be this year or next year. Finally, I want to say in the past 3 weeks, we have closed school, developed an initial plan for pre-K to 12 instruction remotely, implemented that plan, modified the plan based on feedback, and are now planning to roll out that revised plan. This has been exhausting work and has required administrators and teachers to put in an extraordinary number of hours to plan and execute these plans. In addition, this work has required a high level of flexibility and collaboration between administrators and teachers, far beyond the already high levels that Holliston typically sees. Everyone has rolled up their sleeves and pitched in, putting roles and responsibilities to one side, working together to make this happen. I am immensely proud of this work and profoundly proud of the teachers and administrators of the Holliston Public Schools who have made this happen. I also want to express my personal appreciation to the leadership of the Holliston Federation of Teachers for their flexibility and commitment to ensuring the students of Holliston are well served during the shutdown, while ensuring that we provide the flexibility that our staff needs to cope with the issues they have to cope with while they are working from home as well. That's my report on the remote learning plan.
So thank you, Brad, and I echo your gratitude to the entire staff and to you and to the administrators, and I would expect nothing less of this district. That's who we are. for the committee, I'm going to go around the block so you can ask your questions. I have one quick question, and it goes off of Brad's last point. Brad, I am really getting concerned about the number of times a student is connecting with somebody from school, whether it's a para, a teacher, another staff member. And my own personal recommendation or preference would be, I'd love to see every student or most of the students having some contact with somebody from the district every day, whether it's an email, a Zoom, or a chat, just something. I'm starting to sense some isolation with some of the kids, and I've been talking to other people about that. And so that is one concern for me, and you may not have the answer to that right now, but my one concern is connection for every single student, regardless of where they are in our
I encourage you to take a look at the plan that I sent out that does delineate the expectations about outreach and the frequency that happens. And if you feel that needs adjustment, I'd welcome that feedback.
Okay, thanks. Anne Louise?
Thank you. I have one quick minor thing of clarification and then just observation. So quick question, Brad, and then I'll go to my observation. If I understood correctly, the grades for high school students will be calculated as of March 12th, and everything after that is pass-fail, essentially. So when did semester 2 begin? It's usually February sometime, right?
It was somewhere, I have it back in my notes, it was January 27th, maybe, something like that.
Okay, it's right about the start of February, January 27th. So I just want to make sure I'm clear. So then the first, any class that was a second semester class, meaning third and fourth quarters, would be, or terms as we call them, I still rely on quarters, would be basically graded based on 6 weeks of work?
No,
That's what I'm trying to get clear.
The second semester courses, the courses that run both term 3 and term 4 will be providing credit or no credit.
So no grade.
Credit or no credit.
Okay, but
the only courses that will be graded, will receive a letter grade, will be courses that end at the end of term 3.
Okay. I'm sorry that I must have missed that. So I was just trying to understand that.
No, it's an important, but I understand it's a distinction.
So the other piece of, I'm sorry, Cynthia, just hang on because I do a couple of that. So for seniors who are graduating, I know the current plan then would be to keep I'm assuming graduation on with everything that we know right now. If they're completing classes, May 29th, graduation is still the 6th or 7th, I think it is this year. That weekend, I know that's the right weekend, whatever the date is.
The last day of school for seniors is
May 29th.
May 29th, and that's all I'm able to say right now.
Okay, I think that's kind of an important piece. As soon as you and Nicole are ready to release that to the public, that's a piece. And the reason I'm asking,
release what? I'm confused.
Like if there's any change to that graduation date. I guess where I'm going with this is that our seniors have fourth term courses that they wouldn't have completed like at the end of June. I understand that, but at this point, that doesn't leave them time for those fourth term courses. Term 4, when term 3 is ending on April 17th. So term 4 would begin like the 19th or 20th of April and go for 4 weeks. Is that sort of it? I'm just really just trying to clarify this. I'm not questioning, challenging. I'm trying to clarify it.
term 4 is traditionally a short term for seniors.
Yeah, but
And it will be shorter this year because both term 3 and term 4 are going to have to be shortened.
okay. So April vacation, when did you say that was occurring? You told me
Well,
not to take notes.
April vacation is currently scheduled to begin April 20th.
April 20th.
So
So-
if we keep having if April vacation remains, which I'll preview my recommendation for the second part, I'm going to recommend we don't do. But if we do continue to have April vacation, term 4 will begin on April 27th. If we cancel April vacation, term 4 will begin on April 21st, which is a Tuesday, because April 20th, Monday, is Patriots Day.
So assuming for the 5 seconds that April vacation stays in place, term 4 for our seniors will be 4 weeks.
It will
So
be from April 27th to May 29th, 5 weeks, I think that is.
okay. And they'll be given credit that will satisfy their graduation requirements if they're depending on those term 4 courses for that.
Yes.
Okay, that was where I was headed with that. I was trying to understand how long that would be. Okay, so I guess first I just want to step back. I deeply appreciate that you heard the community and the school committee by and large last week. I think it's unfortunate that on reflection, you feel you were cornered. I think we were trying to share the very significant, real, and palpable concerns that we were not only feeling as parents, but more importantly, we were feeling from the community. Sometimes that translates into emails from parents to school committee members or to you or to administrators. But I don't think you could accurately state that only a few parents had concerns. I think this was a significant issue because in the very same introduction here, clearly it was causing enormous stress. And I think one of the reasons you may not have observed that from other peer communities is because so many of them had moved to distance learning and made that decision. And it left us wondering where we were last week. So I think it was an understandable reaction from the community and from this committee. But I really, really applaud you for taking that feedback seriously and working so hard with all of our teachers. And Peter, I know this was like a Herculean effort to pull this off and produce this document in this week, because the document is only the last piece of reflecting all the work that went into this. And I think that's enormous. And so I want to compliment you, Brad. I want to compliment Peter, the administration, all of the teachers, because I think it really will make a difference. I think it's important. I really, really do. And I'm optimistic and hopeful that most of our students will really be able to take advantage of this. I also want to acknowledge that I know this will be difficult for some students, maybe many of them. And that's why in our budget meeting this morning, I was hopeful that we would be able to produce sooner rather than later a snapshot on really where we stand with potential savings versus some incremental costs. Because I don't think we can afford to wait. If we need to invest more resources to help some of our students who are going to struggle with this approach, then we should try to find as many opportunities, devote as much resources as we need to and can to assisting those students now so that we can minimize that gap and pull them along and help them out, meet them where they are, and do the best that we can to support each and every student. And that was really the point of last week's conversation. And if we need to make a plea for more funds to do that, then we do it. We just got to figure out what they're going toward. So that's my piece. I say thank you, thank you, thank you, and we'll see how it goes.
All right, I'm going
Stacy, if I
around.
could I wanted to clarify one of my remarks. Apparently I was unclear. I didn't mean to imply that I felt cornered by the committee. I felt cornered by my two opposing values that were being tested and moving me in separate directions. And that was what caused me to feel cornered.
So I'm, to be fair, I really am going across the faces to let you all have a chance to ask your questions. Lisa, you raised your hand though while Anne Louise was talking about budget. Do you have a budget specific question? If you do, go ahead. Otherwise, it's Dawn and then Cynthia.
Well, I just wanted to maybe poke a little bit about it's something Anne Louise just said in terms of providing more resources now for bringing some of these kids along. I think in theory, we would love to do that, but for some of these kids, I don't think there's any amount of resources we can provide right now because they're just not available for learning.
Yep, that may be true.
So I think a lot of this is going to have to be a wait and see item. And then I also have a comment about the remote learning plan too. Can I jump into that? Okay. I just wanted to say thank you to Dr. Jackson and Dr. Patello and all the administrative staff. I know there's nothing we can do that's going to be perfect for every family and every child, but I think this is incredibly flexible, incredibly thoughtful. And I'm just proud to be part of this district right now. I am scanning through this document. I'm just really impressed. And, you know, I know that, like I just was referring to, there are some kids that just aren't available right now. And that's something we're going to have to deal with later. But I think this plan has really tried to think about serving all students. And I think that's really commendable. So thank you.
Go ahead, Dawn.
Thank you. Thank you very much to the administrators, to the teachers, to the Holliston Federation of Teachers for this plan and the work that went into it, the adaptability, the flexibility, and thinking about all students. And I guess because things are moving so quickly, a week ago, everything looked very different. 2 weeks ago, everything looked very different. Just going to remark that our next meeting is Thursday, April 16th. And I wanted to kind of put it out there to see if, I know we received this plan recently and the community will receive the plan. I'm sure there will be lots of feedback and many questions. So I did want to put it out there for your consideration, whether we would have another meeting on Thursday, April 9th, just to go over the implementation of this plan, questions people might have. I did want to speak to, and I hope this isn't redundant for what Anne Louise said, but you probably saw Jim Sturgios's piece, the op-ed in the Boston Globe on Tuesday, and you may recall that he wrote an op-ed in the New York Times in 2019 about tackling equity at Boston's public schools. But in the piece that he did this week, he discussed how state and local officials must remove obstacles to digital learning and discussed the frustration felt in households with school-aged children at the loss of structured public school learning since mid-March is palpable at school committee meetings held on platforms like Zoom and in emails to committee members. And I think we all probably saw some of those emails. And just underline the fact that our students are going to miss a third of the academic year. And based on our unique schedule at the high school, as you said, Brad, it's even more than that. So I thank you. I thank you for the flexibility in this and reaching out for all students. I know you mentioned that inevitably this will result in gaps, and we hear you. We hear that there will be remediation, and I know we talked about that last week too. I am happy that it won't be remediation for 2,800 students, but I acknowledge that we are going to have to really look at what this school needs for the fall. So thank you.
Cynthia?
Hi. So I just wanted to let people know that we actually just got this document literally like 45 minutes to an hour before our meeting. So we ourselves I barely got to scan it over before we came into our meeting. So I'm just, look at a tiny part of it. So one of the things I'm a little confused about is the credit, no credit. So what does that mean in terms of, is something pass, like what is the credit, no credit versus pass fail option is sort of one of my questions. And I really appreciate so much what they went into to create this document. I was reading about other teachers who were saying, you know, I worked 18 months to put one course to make it available online. And we asked our teachers to put our whole curriculum up for the rest of, foreseeably for the school year, in a matter of like a week. So, I mean, I just feel like we need to like take our temperature down a little bit, and our expectations are going to have to be very different from what they would be in a traditional school environment, obviously. I am deeply concerned about the kids who are not available to learn right now. And it's, although I think it's great that we have structure for them, and I want them to continue learning as best as they're available to do so. But I do think it does come with some peril in the sense that we are going to be playing catch up for these kids for the foreseeable future. And I'm not sure how we're going to do that. Is that going to mean extended days of learning? I have no idea what that's going to look like. This pandemic's going to be with us for a while. And I think to look at this as a very short-term problem is a mistake. I think we need to look at this as kind of something that's going to be a long-term issue that we all have to manage in one way or the other. And just like your work environment has changed drastically, that you're working from home during a crisis, you're not just working from home, right? So there's parents that are at home right now with their small children trying to piece together whether they have a job, whether they're going to be able to keep a roof over their head, whether they're going to be able to stay healthy. All of those issues are impacting the entire family system. So I think we need to really be very cognizant of who is anxious here, because everyone is anxious here. Everyone. So to say that this is only affecting, some small segment, or it's just the high school kids, or it's not, it's everybody. It's palpable everywhere in this community. So anyway, I just wanted to say that. And then in terms of trying to assist students now, I'm not sure how we're going to be able to put interventions in place for kids who have any sort of major developmental delay. Like, what are we going to be able to do for them? Like, I'm not even sure what that would even look like. We can't physically be with them at all. So I'm sure that maybe there's something mentioned in that document that I haven't been able to look at yet, but I know I'm throwing I'm throwing the kitchen sink out here. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. Whoever wants to speak to it, go for it.
That's 10 cents.
To that last point, like every student is going to have a remote learning every student on IEP is going to have a remote learning support service plan. Now, to show what we're going to do in this unique situation to try to support what would traditionally be in their IEP when we're in brick and mortar. And so that's something that Meg Kaviri and the special education staff, in conjunction with our general educators and administrators, are putting together. It won't be perfect, but it will be really thoughtfully done in order to try to support those kids in this unique situation the best we can, and help them to progress and support their unique needs.
Thank you, Peter. I'm really glad that Meg is here to help us with this right now.
Brad, did you want to add anything to Cynthia's questions in particular?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay. Lisa, I'm back to your square. Did you have any other questions?
No other questions, but I just wanted to also thank the teachers. I know that, they're juggling multiple kids at home, and wanted to make sure I said that too.
Joan?
I have a page of questions, but first of all, the yeoman's work that has gone into this, I've read as fast as I could what Brad sent us right before the meeting, and I can't get over the amount of work that has been done. And I would like to point out something that we're talking about as a committee. We're talking about, I heard people say, we have to pull them along, and that this is a plan that addresses all students. No, it's not. This is a plan to move forward with the curriculum. Philosophically speaking, put that aside for a moment, but we are leaving kids, we will be leaving kids behind. And maybe that's a stark reality. And maybe this is a plan that is somewhat suspending FAPE. But let's just call it what it is. Let's not say that this is supporting all students, because there's not equity in this. And that is, if that is what the community expectation is, if that's what the school committee expectation is, then that's what this is. But this isn't teaching all students. I support the forward motion of curriculum in this very thoughtful way at the high school, because I think it is causing a lot of anxiety, but I truly believe we don't know who is feeling anxious or not. Last week, we talked about reaching out to vulnerable students. We don't know who they are. Just because your child is not high needs, that doesn't mean that they're not anxious right now. Just because they haven't previously been categorized as someone who struggles, if you will, that doesn't mean that they're not. So there's this misconception that a majority of students want to move forward. I can get onto I can be on board with the idea that a majority of high school parents want to move forward, but students, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. So I wish we would just stop talking about how this supports all students, because I think that is ingenuine. I also wanted to hear a little bit more about delivery of IEPs and what that means to, like, are they going to be rewritten? Are they going to be amended? Last week, we talked about collecting data over the next week about why students aren't engaging. I'm curious about whether we've had any information on that. Term 4 electives, like if your term 4 elective was ceramics, you're not gonna be doing ceramics. So I'm sure that was taken into account. It might be in that 26 pages, but I'm just curious about that. And also, Sturgis's piece that Dawn, I read that and I thought, well, here's an acknowledgement of one section of the population. He did not talk about high needs students at all. I thought his piece was light, and I thought it was a case of affluenza. That's what, and I think so much is changing, and I think our administration and our teachers have done an amazing job. And I love that there's a lot of flexibility built into the plan going forward, and that there's a lot of autonomy given to teachers to assess where their students are and meeting them there. So there were a couple questions in that diatribe, and we are getting a lot of questions about, is there contingency planning happening with respect to prom, baccalaureate, like things like that? Like, we've been very busy this week. So I do think that it might be worth a check-in next week, because so much is changing in the space of a week, that maybe we should check in next week. And the last question is expectations for readiness of next year with this plan, Brad. Because we are talking about halftime instruction. So my example of Algebra 1 last time, if you're in Algebra 1 now and you're supposed to be in Algebra 2 come August, is there an expectation that you're going to be there? Have we gotten that far? I'm just going to stop talking now.
This is why I get paid the big bucks. I get to try to respond to that. So I cobbled a few questions out of that some of which I'll be able to answer and some of which I won't. The special education services that Peter described that we're putting together are in response to the federal guidelines that say we should do as much as we can for our students who are on IEPs, but we are not, we cannot and are unable to deliver the grid-based services in the way we do in a brick and mortar situation. So each student who is on an IEP will receive the level of support, the maximum level of support we're able to provide in this environment. And then students will be assessed when they return by the team to determine if additional services are needed and what type of regression, if any, took place. In terms of the number of students we outreached, we actually had quite a bit of success in reaching out to students in K through 8, and we feel that we reached essentially all families with a few exceptions that we have referred to our attendance officers for follow-up, because we believe there may be families that that have moved out of Holliston or moved in with families in another community that we're unable to track down right now. At the high school, we had about 85 students that we were unable to reach out to, that did not respond, have not responded in the first week, a week and a half. I haven't got data. The data I had was as of Tuesday. Frankly, a lot of that, we're having trouble trying to figure out if that is students that disengaged because of there was too much flexibility in our original plan, and they thought, I don't have to do it. I'm just going to completely disengage. Or if they're kids who are unable to get out of bed and just and struggling at that level. So that's still some work we have to do because we haven't been able to differentiate between those two yet. Term 4 ceramics, great question. I don't have an answer for you. And then the expectations for readiness upon return. Every year, I expect a teacher to start the school year by assessing his or her class for the content they expect them to have when they walk in the door. And if they don't have it, for them to circle back and reteach it before they begin their own content. That's a common expectation that I think exists regardless of the situation. And because without the baseline content upon which you're building your new content, there's no foundation upon which to build. So that is a very common practice. This year, it will be magnified by 1,000 times the need to do that. One of the comparisons that Meg Kamiri actually made to me a couple of days ago was our incoming kindergartners. We don't tell some of our parents, nope, stop telling your kids what the letters and numbers are. We'll teach that. Or don't, if your kid's ready to read, don't start teaching them how to read. We'll do that in kindergarten. Some kids come to kindergarten not having any letter or number recognition. Others know sight words when they walk in the door. Granted, kindergarten teachers are extremely good and talented at mixing, at working that mix. And high school teachers respectfully typically don't, because of leveling and content, don't have to exercise those skills to that same level. But it is nonetheless a common skill that I think all teachers should be and are expected to have. So I think we are going to not only are we losing a minimum of 7 weeks of instruction this year, but we will likely be losing at a minimum, a week or two of instruction, a week of two more of instruction than we would have lost to assess students and perhaps fill in some of the minor gaps that may exist. The major gaps are going to require significant investments and may require services. Some kids may end up qualifying for special ed services. There's all sorts of options there. So, but next year is going to look very different. Next September is going to look very different from every other September we have ever had. That is a reality that I don't think anybody's ready to face yet, because we're still dealing with this reality. But that's what I meant when I said that we are going to have to be investing some significant resources next year to address the gaps that naturally occurred and the gaps that this plan exacerbates.
Andy?
All right, first of all, Brad, or Dr. Jackson, Dr. Patello, and your staff, thank you guys so much for all of the hard work that has gone into this. I've only, I think like Cynthia said, only just started to look at it over dinner before at the meeting, but I'll certainly get to the rest of it probably tomorrow at this point. But thank you for all that hard work. I do have a couple questions, and maybe some of them are in the document, but I didn't necessarily get to all of it. One, Wednesdays at the high school, I didn't quite understand how it was a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. The second question I have, or maybe a concern, is around high school and credit, no credit. If we're back on May 4th, we have about 5 or 6 weeks with underclassmen where they're going to be at school in classes, potentially in a credit, no credit situation. I'm a little concerned about how that's going to look. I understand that certainly coming back to school is going to be in and of itself an event, but I'm a little concerned of how that looks. Understandably, if we go the rest of the year, it might be different, but that circumstance. So those are two questions specifically related to what you presented tonight. And then I was just curious about any guidance we've received from the state with regard to MCAS exams going forward. So summarize Wednesday, credit, no credit for the end of the year, and MCAS were my three things I was curious about.
Thank you. The Wednesday is a day where students will be working independently on all 4 of their period classes, which will allow time for teachers to do common planning, for teachers to meet with special educators and try to differentiate and work on the curriculum to deal with the students who are struggling, for teachers to meet and to discuss remediation plans and develop and address remediation plans for students, compare notes. That's when we can catch up on stragglers and that type of thing. We thought it was really important for a couple of reasons. One, as many of you have noted, we wanted to provide as much flexibility in this schedule as possible. Our staff members are struggling just like a lot of other people are. They are figuring out how to work from home. I have to tell you, if I had $1 for every time I saw Nicole Bottomley's daughter have a meltdown on Zoom while we were trying to have a meeting, I would be able to fill the budget gap at the state level. And that's just because everybody's dealing with the challenges of this new world that we're living in. So we wanted to build in as much flexibility as we could, knowing that students might need some time to catch up and also have some more flexible time. So this provided us an opportunity to have a kind of a breather in the middle of the week for that purpose. The other thing about the Monday, Tuesday, the other thing about the high school schedule is that we've also retained DSB, which is going to be an opportunity for students to connect with counselors, connect with, maybe the chorus and the band can do some work together to do some of that work that makes school fun. Because we think DSB is an important part of our high school experience. So I didn't mention that before, but DSB will be running throughout the day. So the first period will be from 9 to 9:50, from 10 to 10:50 will be DSB, and from 11 to 11:50 will be the second period. In terms of fourth term, you know what? I never asked that question, Andy. That's a good one, and I'll have to get back to you on it. I think my initial reaction is that we built this plan to be expandable under the base assumption that the likelihood of returning on May 4th was low. So I'm not sure I ever asked the question about credit, no credit. The challenge would be that we have mixed classes, some with seniors, some with underclassmen, seniors and underclassmen, that the seniors would providing a letter grade for 2 or 3 weeks for them. So I really would have to think that one through. I don't have an answer for you. In terms of MCAS, the legislation that grants the authority to the commissioner to modify MCAS is still pending in the House and has not passed. If and when that passes, then the authority will be granted to the commissioner to make adjustments that he sees fit in MCAS for this year. So all MCAS plans are on hold pending passage of that legislation. Did I get them all? Even though I didn't answer one of them?
Yep, that's great. Thank you, Brad.
Did better for Andy than you did for me.
All right, Lisa, then Nan Louise.
Sorry, I had to step out for a couple minutes, so I may have missed this part. I know that you guys were talking about, I think Cynthia had raised questions about kids on IEPs. Did you guys talk about the plans, the remote learning plans? Because Meg Camiri briefed us at the CPAC meeting last night. You talked about that already, April 13th? Okay, so parents know that's coming. Okay, I'm sorry, apologies. That's it.
One thing I don't think we did mention, that parents will be involved in that process. Liaisons will be reaching out to parents to help co-create those remote learning support service plans.
Anne Louise?
I was thinking about those fourth quarter classes as well. And actually what triggered an idea in my head was your email several days ago, Cynthia, about that course being offered by Yale online. And I began wondering if it was possible or reasonable to open up to kids who are in situations like ceramics, unless there's some brilliant alternate. I have no doubt Doug Lack and team would come up with some alternate creative course for them. But separate and apart from the arts, it may be worth letting kids take a look at the online courses that we do offer to see if that would satisfy those Q4 requirements, because it may be easier because the curriculum exists. I don't know, letting them sign up for those, or an external course for which they could gain credit. Just a thought.
Brad or Peter, do you have a response to that?
Well, I'll bring the question back to Ms. Bottomley and let her address it. I can get you that information.
You don't have to come back to me. I mean, it's just an idea that may make it easier to deal with those courses that are a little bit harder to do online. Just give them some other options, you know.
Brad, is there an expectation for time on learning with students and time in front of students? So I'm actually asking this on behalf of people out there in the community who are sending me questions. You know, are we setting an expectation from now until whenever school is not closed? That there's an expectation that teachers will be in front of students either via Zoom or a conference call for X amount of time. Are there any, I'm just concerned about the lack of consistency from teacher to teacher, and if that's gonna cause issues for some students. And I might not have asked that completely, so feel free to throw it back.
The last part of your question. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You started to talk about time on learning. So the expectation from the department is that students spend approximately half of their school day in either student-led or teacher-led work, that's an expectation K through 12. So the schedule that I discussed at the high school meets that requirement, and the schedules that have already been put out by Miller, Placentino, and Adams also meet that requirement.
Okay.
But it's a combination of direct instruction and student-led work. So the teacher, it's not necessarily quote face-to-face.
But this will bring in more consistency around a certain number of face-to-face interactions with kids at the high school, certainly, and at the middle school, at the elementary. Up to this point, that's been happening as people have been trying to kind of delve into that, and it's been happening less consistently, but getting accustomed to it. And this does address that as far as having a certain number of those interactions at both the middle school and the elementary school, and certainly at the high school, as Brad talked about before.
And can we agree on how long the school day is? Because I know it's a little different by each school by a couple of minutes, but I just want to be clear on, you know, what does half the school day mean? Because actually I'm arguing with my children over this. Is it a 6-hour day or is it a 6.5-hour day? So Brad, could you set the record, please? And I'm recording this for my children.
No comment. I honest to God, I don't have that number in front of me. I think it's, I don't have that number in front of me right now.
Okay. Dawn and then Lisa.
Can you hear me? Am I back? Okay. Okay. Brad, I had noticed in this document, you addressed April vacation. Are we waiting from additional guidance from DESE that you anticipate getting next week to address April vacation next week, or are we going to have that discussion tonight?
I was going to introduce that topic after we completed this conversation.
Okay.
I just wanted to maybe caution a little bit against consistency. I think consistency and flexibility are sort of polar opposites. And I don't think that we can ask teachers to maintain a really strict schedule for, you know, X number of hours a day if they happen to be home alone with 2 or 3 young kids. So I understand the desire for consistency that's out there. But I think we have to balance that against the flexibility that's required, given that there are a lot of different family situations going on.
I think when you're able to digest the plan, you'll see that we're really striking that middle path between some level of consistency and flexibility. I've seen other plans out there that don't do that, and we've really tried to have enough flexibility because we know the reality of what teachers are facing, what parents are facing, what kids are facing, that you need, you know, a great amount of flexibility. So there's different opportunities for kids to access learning, and there's flexibility on the teacher's part about, when they deliver and how long they deliver for, while having a level of consistency that I think speaks to Stacy's point.
Thanks, Peter. Any other questions on this so far? So clearly some of us, I do want to digest this a little more, even though this needs to be rolled out. And actually, quite honestly, I think some teachers have already started to roll this out, Brad, because kids have told their parents. So I hope that tomorrow we can get this out sooner than later, because kids have already shared that they've gotten some presentations or whatnot from their teachers. So I really want to make sure that we get ahead of this and get in front of the parents as soon as we can. But I'd also like the committee to be able to digest this a little bit and offer some potentially more next week. Anne Louise?
Yeah, I was just going to say, forgive me to reiterate that, what might be helpful. So the document that the administration shared with the teachers at the high school made its way toward me, and I thought it was a great document. I didn't do anything with it, obviously, but I think the chart in particular that shows the schedule is nice. I don't know. I mean, it's something like that would be helpful to parents, because it kind of, in a snapshot, gives you a sense of the schedule.
Those are in this document.
I didn't even get that far. So if they're there,
Okay.
I didn't see that, Peter, but that was especially helpful with like
Page 21.
Right. And I think this is great, but like some bullets that just kind of highlight the essence would be helpful to some people, just like that. But thank you.
Okay, Brad, do you want to talk about April vacation now?
So I'm bringing this forward to the committee for an introductory conversation. At least that's my expectation at this point in time. The school committee has one of their authorities through the policy making, your policy making function is establishing the school calendar. We currently, for the 2019-2020 school year, have a April vacation scheduled to begin on April 20th, which is Patriots Day, Monday, April 20th, which is a holiday, and then April vacation is Tuesday, the 21st, the 22nd, the 23rd, and the 24th. At this point in time, the DESE regulations for days, for makeup days, is that all of the days up to 5 that we've been closed, and we would have to make up at the end of the year, which currently means our current last day of school is Wednesday, June 24th. Many districts have inquired of the department if we continued to execute our remote learning plan in its entirety through April vacation, meaning that teachers would be working through April vacation, if we could end the school year 4 days earlier. They have not responded to that request yet. But if they respond affirmatively, I think there is a lot of value to considering continuing the remote learning plan through the April vacation, canceling April vacation in essence, and which would then return our last day of school to the Thursday before that, and I don't have the date in front of me. I'm sorry. I make
June
this
18th.
The 18th, Thursday, June 18th. I make this recommendation for 2 reasons. The first is that we will just be building up a lot of good momentum on our phase 2 of our remote learning plan. And I think a break at that point in time would not be helpful to that momentum. The second piece is a much more practical piece, and that is that those days are not vacation days as we always perceived April vacation to be. We are not going to be having families going down to the Cape. We are not going to be having families going to the beach in Maine. We're not going to be having families going up to Canada to try to get in the last day of skiing. We're not going to have families going to Disney. We're not going to be doing anything. We're going to be sitting inside doing nothing, looking at each other. And I think that while there is value to rest, a lot of value to rest, he says at 10 minutes past 9, there is also value to structure and continuity, particularly in these unique times. And there's value to routine. So I think this is an idea worth considering. If I knew we were returning on May 5th, I would not be as enthusiastic about this recommendation because I would want to try to maximize the amount of face time I could have with students between May 5th and the end of the school year. And I think those last days would have some value. And if I knew that, I would probably be playing the lottery as opposed to being here right now because I don't think anybody knows what is going to happen with certainty at the beginning of May as it relates to school. But I do think there's some value. I think one of the issues that Anne Louise had brought up is that it would provide essentially an extra week to term 4 for our seniors, which Anne Louise had expressed some concern about. And I think it would also allow for families to maintain the routine that they've established. So it's something that if I knew that this would have the desired effect, which is moving the last day of school back to that Thursday in June, I would be making that recommendation now and asking you to consider it for a vote. Because we can't do both, however. We can't have teachers work April vacation and go to that June 24th date because that exceeds the number of days teachers contractually are required to work. So we have to, I need the ruling from DESE before I can finalize my recommendation. But I did want to introduce the topic tonight for you to consider, perhaps kick around a little bit before making any final determination.
Thank you, Brad. We did discuss this a little bit in budget subcommittee as well, because there were some budget questions related to it. So I had another thought, and probably this isn't possible. I mean, I fully support that recommendation if and when it's appropriate for you to make it, for all the reasons that you said, plus giving term 4 an extra week. I'm concerned that we've lost through this whole process so much time on learning as it is. I'm just wondering if the way our contract works is that it's absolute in terms of days, or for instance, because we're essentially having half days, that those count as half days and we could still use that last week in the fiscal year. Like, do we really have to give that week up? Is that a negotiable point? Because right now the days are going to be ending at noon. Sorry, that's a nuance. I appreciate that, but I'm wondering if that's something.
I think it presupposes something that I'm not sure I agree with, and that is that I think that what is happening is that teachers may not be working their traditional 8 to 2, but they are certainly working 6 hours a day, answering emails at night, doing prep.
Yeah, I'm not doubting
transitioning their curriculum. They are complete. I mean, teachers have been putting in hours and hours and hours and hours this past month.
I know.
Doing their work. So I just think that presupposes something that is an assumption that I wouldn't.
No, I'm not assuming.
I don't necessarily.
I'm not assuming that they're not putting hours in. I'm just. It really pertains to the 5th day in the week as well. I know it's a planning day. I get it, but that was the question. So anyway, it's a thought.
Joan and then Lisa.
A related question, Brad, and this is a question I asked last week, is that has there been any discussion with our teachers union or more globally the teachers unions that this plan as we go forward in these uncharted waters is an acknowledgement that this is a change in work condition and we're not going to be facing grievances? Like, do we need any? I'm just going to leave the question there.
So there's 2 points you brought up here. One is state level. I'm 100% sure that if the commissioner does allow districts to use the April days towards their calendar, that it would be a local decision. It would not be a statewide decision. So he would leave that up to the local school district to make that final determination. He would just say, if you do this, it would be okay. If you don't do it, it's not, it's moot.
Forgive me, I wasn't talking about April vacation. I was talking about globally, the remote learning model that we're rolling out and we're continuing and we're pursuing. This is obviously a change in work condition. And I'm just wondering, the DESC press release last week talked about collaboration with this group, that group, and including the 2 major teachers unions. And I'm just wondering, was there an acknowledgement that this is a change in work condition, and surely that is in every teacher contract, and that the districts would be immune from any grievances along those lines?
No, there's actually just the opposite. The relationship between the state has not provided any, doesn't have any authority, nor has it any interest to do statewide bargaining. Locally, as I mentioned in my prepared remarks, the HFT leadership and I have been in constant contact. Their flexibility and understanding has been remarkable, and there are hundreds of changes in working conditions that some recalcitrant school unions, teacher unions in other communities could take advantage of, and that has not happened here. And the watchword that Jamie Catone and I agreed to the day this happened was flexibility. And she has held me accountable to that, so that when I hear about a teacher who has some extreme issues going on in their home that has caused them to be unable to connect to the work, that I have offered that teacher the highest level of flexibility. In return, we've received the same from our teachers. It has been a very, very collaborative relationship that has worked out, in my personal opinion, very, very well. I have consulted with the HFT president on the concept of April school vacation, and the HFT at this point in time doesn't have an official position on it. but they understand the reasoning that I've put forward, much like you do. They have expressed a willingness to continue to work collaboratively as we address these very, very challenging issues and unique problems.
So I think the point there is to acknowledge that we have, that's extraordinary. That's extraordinary. And we are so lucky in Holliston.
No, we have good teachers. We have awesome teachers.
We have amazing teachers.
And they're represented by a very professional, you know, don't get me wrong, Ms. Catona and I have crossed swords on more than one occasion, but they've always been professional, and they have always ended amicably, whether we agree or disagree. So, but in this case, the collaboration between both groups, and it's required some flexibility on my part as well, but it has been remarkable and noteworthy.
Lisa?
So we're not going to be asked to vote on this till next week. This kind of begs for a meeting next week, I think, because parents are going to want to know. Did we already decide that we're doing a meeting next week?
Stacey, that's part of the conversation.
Well, I just wanted to throw in, I definitely support the idea of continuing remote learning through April vacation. So canceling April vacation, because I think that parents would be really frustrated that they're kind of getting into a groove now with some structure and consistency, and then taking a week off to basically just, try to have a staycation would be, I think, frustrating for a lot of parents. I mean, I don't have any consistency in my house, so this is not a personal comment, but I think some parents are having some success with consistency and structure. Also, can't forget that last week, as a parent reminded me today, if we honored April vacation and kept that intact and did end up having that extra time later in June, it could be sweltering and miserable and really difficult to get anything done anyway. So I think that I would lean heavily toward canceling April vacation.
Yeah. All right. So forget that idea about the end of June. That was like a out loud brainstorm of my head, which isn't always good. But the back to the topic of school committee meetings, I haven't looked at our calendar, Stace. I think they're like kind of every other week now again, but because we had them for a couple of weeks in a row there for a while. But I think it might be worth just posting, kind of like we did for the budget subcommittee, Thursday nights through May 6th, just so we can touch base, get a pulse, and make them express meetings, like fast meetings, because we don't have, I know, shut up, Andy, but just to get an update on where things are at, how the teachers are feeling, how students are feeling.
Andy, unmute so we can hear you laughing.
Yeah, I can see him laughing. And also if anything comes up with budget on a Wednesday morning that for whatever reason we need to vote on, we won't be able to post for school committee Thursday night. So you can always cancel, but is it worth just posting a 1 hour meeting for the next 5 weeks on Thursday evenings to make sure we've got it on the calendar?
Yeah. So Brad might not love that idea, but yes, I think that's the route we need to go. In my opinion, we can certainly take a vote.
You guys
1 hour
do that. I have to tell you, I beg you, please do not do that. I don't think you really recognize the amount of preparation it takes before a meeting, the amount of work it takes to do minutes after a meeting and to review them. That takes me and Peter and Keith off of task to work at these. I do agree we have to have a conversation and you need to make a decision next week about April vacation, and it obviously can't wait until the 16th. Having said that, there are numerous mechanisms to receive feedback on our remote learning plan directly from families, students, that don't require weekly meetings to funnel feedback on this work. So I know you're going to do what you want to do, but I just do have to put in a request to please consider whether that's absolutely necessary.
Well, I think it's necessary in the sense that then the budget subcommittee can report out anything that comes up. You can report out anything that comes up from Desi. I understand that we have email. I just think I would feel better. I would feel like I'm doing my job if we did that. And I do understand, but I think that the agenda item is update on COVID-19 impact on closure. That's just my recommendation, but we're a committee, so let's take a vote. Joan, you have a question?
Can we just help with the minutes? Like, I get that's a total laborious thing. Is there a way that or can we add Lisa or Rooney? I don't know, but can we
jump in?
We have many more things going on other than the COVID thing going on, such as, for me personally, I do a financial report I have to do, and Louisa's made a financial request. We have school choice seats we still have to open up for next year. Just because we're closed now doesn't mean that, 21 doesn't continue for a lot of these other operational things. So every time you're adding a meeting, you may be saying it's going to be an hour or whatever, regardless of who may be talking during the meeting, because some of us do get to the point quicker than others here. And I may have to mute Anne Louise while I'm doing this, but I'm just saying that there's going to be the agendas are going to be stock full going forward anyway. So and I'm not trying to support Brad in this. I'm just saying, be wary of having these every week meetings, because they're not going to be an hour. I've got business to conduct.
Why don't we just take this a week at a time? Why don't we we need a meeting next week because we have to vote on April vacation. Let's just do that. Next week, we'll decide if we need a meeting the following week.
I think that makes sense. I think we should just do it week by, let's just do next week.
And we call it what it is, a check-in meeting. Yeah. We don't need an agenda. We have to post an agenda, so it will be a check-in meeting. Yeah. But the primary, look, Brad has taken himself out of the picture.
Just an hour. 1 hour.
He's crying.
Wait, let Keith talk. Keith never talks, and he's trying to talk.
I'm agreeing with Keith. I'm just saying, obviously next week we have to have it. I agree with the idea that we're going to do week by week, but on the usually scheduled meetings, we just have to, Stacy's going to have to put down the hammer and say, so much changes in a week that the idea of us not meeting for 2 weeks sounds crazy right now.
It doesn't. I just want to say one thing on this, what those express meetings are in the private sector, they call them stand-ups, and you have this many people on the phone, everybody gets 2 minutes for their update. That's it, big points. And it does work, really works.
Okay.
I will bring the stopwatch. I swear to God, I'll bring the stopwatch. And I do control the mute button.
Keith, so right now we have, and Brad, you're back. Stop crying.
I've been here.
April 2nd, we had tonight, and we have April 16th as a scheduled meeting. We absolutely should meet next week. Brad and I had already had a little preview conversation about the April vacation meeting. I don't know if this matters or not, but we were thinking we would have a quick meeting on Tuesday, a special meeting Tuesday night. Brad, does that still work? Is it not enough notice to people if we make a decision on the 9th? I'm open.
Tuesday? Wait, I'm sorry. Which Tuesday?
Tuesday the 7th, April 7th, for next week.
Why?
Yeah, why? Why
the 7th?
Because we were
I had asked to provide. The sooner we can make this decision, the sooner teachers can prepare for that time. Can
we vote tonight?
I don't have enough direction from Desi to give you to guarantee that this is going to meet the objective of moving the last day of school back 4 days. Until I get that direction from DESE, I don't think it's a good idea to vote. So
we can't do a provisional vote?
If you want to meet, if you want Tuesday, as long as it's not Tuesday and Thursday. And if you want to meet next Thursday, if that makes people more comfortable, that's fine. I'd also like to request that I am not in favor of having a quote check-in meeting. I don't need to have questions that I'm not prepared to answer offered in this venue. I don't think that's healthy, and I don't think that's productive. So if I have things to report, I'm certainly more than willing to report them. But I just, this is, I think there needs to be some guidelines around the purpose of these meetings and what the expectations are. But we do need to meet next week. If it's Tuesday or Thursday, I'm open to either.
I think that's fair, Brad. I think that's very, very fair.
So Brad, Thursday would be sufficient time for teachers should we decide to keep going through April vacation? I just want to.
I think it would be sufficient. I think if I'm the messaging I'm getting out of DESE right now is that the commissioner's not really crazy about making this call, so he's kind of dragging his feet. So hopefully that's not me. So Thursday probably makes the most sense. Are you having trouble hearing me, Stacy?
Just a little bit, but I also have the space heater because I'm in a closet. So near the library where it's freezing. So sorry, you're the only one I'm having trouble hearing. Yes. Anne Louise.
So that was a valid concern, giving the teachers prep time for the following week. So here's a thought. My only concern with Tuesday night is because I wanted to hear what happened at Finance Committee, if there was anything new, and we're going to get together Wednesday morning. So I'll just throw this out to everybody. I mean, just to give them even one more day, is it worth doing it Wednesday night or even Wednesday during the day, since we're all locked up in our houses, if people have that flexibility? And that's not a presumption. I'm just asking, like, we could potentially do it earlier in the day on Wednesday if that works for people.
I think we'd have to ask the people who have younger children.
I can't hear any. You got to get off mute, Cynthia. You're saying something. Sorry.
Sorry, what day are we talking about now?
Well, our meeting is set for next Thursday. Brad had asked for Tuesday to give the teachers a little more time that week to plan for the following week, which I think is totally understandable. I just was hoping that before the committee met, we would again have that opportunity for the select board and the FinCom to meet, and we could meet after that. So we would have that information in hand, because the budget subcommittee is meeting that Wednesday morning. So if anything comes up, and it's possible nothing will come up, but it would be better to get through Tuesday night and Wednesday morning and then have that information in hand when we meet, if possible. But we don't have to wait till Thursday. We could meet Wednesday night or earlier in the day on Wednesday if people's kids allow. So I don't know if that works for people. I'm just throwing it out as an idea.
I can do Wednesday.
Wednesday's challenging for me, but it depends on what time you're talking about, I guess.
Dawn?
Can I just throw out here that April 8th, Wednesday evening, is Passover. So some of our families in town that might be celebrating an important holiday to them, they might not be watching this, or it's just a thought that we should be considering.
What about, does that go into the 9th as well, Dawn?
Dawn, you're on mute.
Okay, I am not completely sure. I don't know.
Well, the meeting is recorded. I mean, I don't know if that helps or not. I don't know, whatever people want to do. I mean, if we have to do it Tuesday night, maybe we could just we won't be able to do it after the, well, maybe we could do it 7 o'clock. The meetings aren't long right now. Finance committee meets at 6. So I think.
Hey guys, I just want to also say Passover would be Wednesday and Thursday evening.
Yeah, until, yeah.
Yeah, so you've got that either way. So we could try that. We could try 7 p.m. on Tuesday, and that'll at least give us an hour to see what, if anything, comes out of the finance committee meeting.
Can we do 6:30 on Tuesday? Because I'd actually like to watch the FinCom meeting because I've been.
Yeah, no, that's my point. I want to be able to watch that. So you're saying because they start at 7, I guess. So, so does Wednesday earlier in the day work? Is that workable for anybody? I mean, Andy, are you on the same kind of a schedule where you're teaching during the day now?
That remains to be seen. We're having some meetings on Monday and on Tuesday, but when I'm not doing that during the day, it's a little difficult to wrangle.
Yeah. Okay.
So I prefer in the evening.
I guess my proposal would be Wednesday evening then, but it's up to you guys.
6:30 to 7 sounds awesome with a hard stop at 7 because we have to watch the other meeting. 30 minutes.
All right.
Or next meeting's free.
Okay.
All right. So everyone's in agreement. We will meet on Tuesday, April 7th at 6:30 p.m.
Quick and dirty.
6:30 p.m. Yes, with the hard stop at 6:58.
Are you making a motion?
Well, do we need to vote on it?
I don't know. See if that works.
Okay. Okay. I need to report out to you some warrants that I signed. School bill warrant for $318,870.55. And another school bill warrant for a total of $100,803.66. Those were both signed by me for this week. Cindy, you asking me a question? No? Okay. And so I just wanted to take 1 second to remind the community that there are resources here for you. Everybody is in uncertain times, so please, please, please make connections with others. If you feel that you or your children need some connection, there is family services. Families are experiencing unexpected economic hardships. There's the Community Action Fund. Again, you just send an email to Jackie Weiner, who's the Director of Youth and Family Services. There is that Community Action Fund, which is a grant program to help families out of economic hardships. The food pantry is available to all Holliston residents. Holliston Public Schools, in association with Mike Fico from Anthony's on the Green and Holiday Dreams Foundation, in addition with the hard work from our public schools, Susan Zalewski and Keith, are administering meals to families every day. There are resources to help you. You are not alone. I will post them on my own Facebook page, links to them. Senator Spilka and Carolyn Pipsima have been giving, it feels like hourly updates, but it's at least daily updates. And I'll be happy to post those as well. The select board is here. Please, please, please make connections. This is important. We're in this together. Cynthia?
I just wanted to share one more resource. We've been getting a lot of emails, at least I have, from the Metro West YMCA that is providing free emergency care to healthcare providers and first responders. So if you are a person who is fighting this battle, look out for those emails. We can forward them and put them on Facebook and other places, but they are providing free care for you, for your children, grade, I think it's like forget what age group, but it's really young kids to 5th grade. So if you are someone who needs that kind of care right now, so you can do your important job that you're doing right now, please look for that.
And then Michelle Hastings, and forgive me, I cannot think of her title right at the moment, but down at Miller and Placentino, she's in technology. She has been given permission by the schools to go ahead and take the 3D printer, and she is making face shields, which is huge. And I've offered personally, if she needed any funds for materials, I will give her whatever she needs. So we're doing good things. We have resources. Please, 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 please reach out. Connect. It's so important. Joan? Oh, sorry. Anne-Louise, you can go after Joan. Sorry.
I just have a very quick question. Brad, do you have any more information on families accessing our meal program at the schools? Last week, feels like last year, you reported sort of a significant uptick in families accessing that program, and I'm just curious, has it plateaued? Do you have any information?
I don't, not to put you on the spot, Keith, do you?
Actually, I've been having conferences with DESE like at noon every day this week. I have not been down there. They did get up into the mid-60s, and it was strong, and the interest level and the appreciation of the families that were coming in was really good. I know they've transitioned seamlessly to the Monday, Wednesday, Friday plan now, just because, again, I don't say they feel like they perfected the work, but they're more comfortable with what they're putting together now. So, it exposes the staff less. So
that's great. Thank you.
Emily.
Oh, this was quick, and you reminded me of it, Stacy, when you said getting emails. I don't know if all of you guys or anybody in town, everyone in town is aware of this, but I thought this was awesome. It's the bubble. It's the newsletter from Youth and Family Services, and it's a monthly newsletter. I can't remember when I signed up for this. It's always chock full of information, but this particular issue was so well done. It's the April 2020. It's like 4 pages, and it covers like not just happenings and updates on telehealth services. The Community Action Fund, it talks about that. It talks about financial resources that you can reach out to, how to apply for unemployment, and other things. It talks about various support groups and meetings, ideas with keeping kids busy, an article on resilience that was really well done, and just other links and resources in here that I think people would find extremely valuable. So I'd really encourage you it's probably on the Youth and Family Services website, and I'd really encourage you to go get a copy of it because it's really good. You can probably subscribe that way.
It's 9:42. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Moved by Lisa.
Seconded by Cynthia.
Moved by Lisa, seconded by Cynthia. Roll call vote. Ms. Hanstead?
Yes.
Ms. Naborski?
Yes.
Mrs. Listevnik?
Yes.
Mr. Morton?
Yes.
Ms. Shaughnessy?
Yes.
Ms. Koshin?
Yes.
Mrs. Raffi? Yes. It is 9:42. Thank you, everybody. Stay safe. Good night. Good night, all.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.